It's like your little personal internet.
Yeah, exactly. This is a photograph of a printed piece of paper that I captured in OneNote. The handwriting on the paper is now searchable. I can actually copy the text out of that picture.
So cool. You've basically just folded the keyboard under the tablet and are now just writing on it.
When I type on a keyboard, the only part of my brain that's active is the audio part. But when I draw, the whole brain's active.
I honestly didn't expect to be so impressed.
That's where the magic lives.
Hey everyone, Tiago here. I am so excited today to introduce someone that I've been looking forward to having on the channel for a long time. I am welcoming Mathew Gilbertson to the channel, who is a Microsoft software expert, a Microsoft MVP, in fact. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. And I've followed you for a long time on social media. So really, to connect in person is fantastic. Thanks for the opportunity. So my background is in construction. I left high school and went into the building trades and ended up with a few different trades. Carpentry is my primary trade. And I always ask this question, can you see a future where you'll be using technology less? No one says yes.
No.
Unless they're near retirement and they go, yes, I can't wait to get rid of it. But that's the case for all industries. My diary was full of drawings. It had extra pages slotted into it where I needed more space. And my whole life was in that diary. But I had a problem when I moved into managing building and projects was how do I take my thinking and digitize it? Because my thinking was in paper. I'd tried PDAs and laptops. I'd tried all those types of things. Couldn't get the result I was after. But the digital piece of paper that OneNote gave me solved an amazing amount of problems. In fact, it took, over the course of a few months, I was saving between 20 and 30 hours a week out of my workflow because I could do things on the spot wherever I happened to be. No duplication of effort anymore. Unexpected or added benefit to that was I essentially built a second brain without the terminology being invented yet because you weren't there to help me. And that was that I had this history of information now that I could search.
Yeah.
So I found then that people started asking me more about what I was doing rather than what they wanted to be built for them. My brother and I started this business called Tablet PC, which was talking to people about using tablet-based technology.
Okay.
We learnt pretty early on that even though people would see what we were doing with devices and buy the devices, but they wouldn't change the way they worked. And so those devices went unutilized. And then we learnt that if we trained them, we would get not only better results for them, but people would buy more devices. You know, selling 10 or 15 or 100 devices was a pretty good margin.
Oh, yeah.
But we learnt that if we wanted to up those sales, we had to invest some of that back in training people. Because it was people that used the technology that sold the technology, not the features and the benefits, right? It was actually the practical benefit. And they were helping people think about technology differently. We've worked with Microsoft very closely to talk about the benefits of using what we call multimodal computing. A multimodal means more than the keyboard. So I use a keyboard every day, but I also use my digital pen every day. I also use the microphones and speakers every day on my device, touch as well. And then now, multimodal also means AI as well, right? So assistance in what I'm doing for and looking, the power of search and all of those sorts of things. Well, my modern job designation is productivity specialist.
Okay.
My day-to-day job is about adopting technology, helping people adopt technology for their human benefit.
I want to speak to all of you out there who maybe have been following me or another content creator or thought leader, maybe have heard about second brains or personal knowledge management or digital gardening or whatever it is. And you are in an organization or a company or something that uses only Microsoft products and you have to use Microsoft products. I myself don't know much about the Microsoft ecosystem, which is why I asked Mathew to come in. What would be sort of the entry point for someone like that? They probably use technology day to day. Maybe they don't know it's kind of how to access its full potential, but what does it mean? Or how would you get started, let's say, creating your second brain in OneNote?
So the first place I would start is just to understand that if you log into office.com on the web with your subscription, if that's personal or a corporate subscription, look at the number of tools that you've got access to here.
Wow, really?
So, most people think of Office as Word, Excel, Outlook, maybe PowerPoint, right?
Yeah.
But it's massive. There are so many tools in there to get your head around and think about using. It's not the Office that most people are familiar with, which is probably 20 or 30 years old, right? There's a bunch of tools. So from a building a second brain perspective, understanding that Outlook and OneNote are integrated with To-Do, also with Planner, and now with Microsoft Loop and other things as well. SharePoint, Teams, it keeps going and going. So probably one of the benefits from a corporate perspective, and that's why most businesses have the Microsoft ecosystem, is you get a full suite of products that can interact with each other.
Yeah. Are these all included in a Microsoft 365 subscription?
Yeah. So I personally have two subscriptions. I have my work subscription, but I also have a family subscription because in Australian terms, for about $120 a year, I get 5 terabytes of storage for my family. I get access to shared calendars, Outlook, OneNote, etc. So even at a family level, right, having the team or my family in one ecosystem of, for example, this trip I've been here for a month in the US on holiday, taking photos. Yeah. All those photos from my camera get loaded up into our OneDrive account for curation later.
Totally.
Everyone's photos are going to the same OneDrive account.
Getting photos from family members and friends is an absolute nightmare, so I see the appeal.
Yeah, so rather than posting all into WhatsApp or Viber or something like that, they're just going straight into OneDrive and we have access to them. We see a lot of people still concerned about cloud storage. If you really want to, you can get it off and put it in a local storage. I'd say leave it in the cloud if it was up to me. But
Totally. And I'm noticing, is this just productivity apps?
So explore by category is something you have on this page, right? So, what utilities do we have? You can go through this homepage. We could spend a whole day talking about the homepage, but the key message I wanted to give you here is that there is a bunch of apps that talk to each other. And Microsoft is continuing to do work in making that more and more seamless.
I often say, even using third-party apps, that your second brain is not one app, it's a whole ecosystem of apps. But I do also say your digital notes app is sort of the nerve center.
Yes, OneNote is the nerve center for that because it gives me the ability to capture and create in any format that I want. So when we think about capturing in the moment, I don't want to think about modality, but I also don't want to think about how do I create my notes. I just want to create them in whatever's available to me right now. That might be writing, it might be typing, it might be voice, it might be capture. But I need to be able to capture in the moment. Yeah. With as little friction as possible.
Yeah. So let's dive into OneNote. What does multimodal capture that you're talking about look like within OneNote?
If I can just divert a little bit to start with and talk about structure, because I'm using an older structure of OneNote here that most people who are introduced to it for the first time don't know. So under the View tab in OneNote, we actually have the ability to change the layout of tabs. So my layout here is pages on the right, sections across the top, and notebooks down the left. So notebooks are the top hierarchy, and you can see here as I scroll through this, I've got a lot of notebooks open, and that's because I've got almost 20 years worth of notes here open today. I create a notebook for every major topic. So if we're thinking about the para method, I would definitely have project-based notebooks, area-based notebooks, research notebooks, right? And then my archive of notebooks I probably don't use.
Notebooks are essentially folders.
Yes,
and
exactly.
The metaphor here is kind of like your notebook, like in school, in binders, that is now digital. You're kind of using some of that terminology, right?
Yes.
So a notebook is a folder, but unlike some other apps, for example, Evernote is what I'm thinking of, you can subdivide and structure within a notebook. Is that right?
And there's a lot of levels of structure there that perhaps you're not aware of or people aren't aware of. And so I do have the basic level, which is section dividers. So think of those like a colored divider, and they are divided here, right? You can see the colors I've got here. And to add a new section, I just hit the plus symbol here, a new section's created, and I can give it a name. And away I go, I've got another divider. You'll notice here that over on the right now, I don't have any information because I have no pages in this section. It comes with its own blank page, which has a title block at the top, which tells me time and date created. OneNote's tracking time and date. It's tracking changes automatically. There's no save button in OneNote. Everything's automatically saved. I don't have to think about that.
Great.
And it also tracks author.
So notebook, section,
pages
are kind of the three main
levels. And I can have groups of sections.
Okay.
And I can also have subpages and subpages of subpages. 3-page levels, all right, 2 section levels, and then your notebook level.
Okay.
So that's 6 levels of hierarchy. This is currently my presentation content. So anything I present is probably in this folder. I do a lot of presentations out of OneNote instead of PowerPoint. I do present in PowerPoint, but I love the freeform nature of what I have in OneNote. And I can give you an example of that here. If I zoom out here, you will see that I've got a bunch of images here and content on this page that I just float around wherever my presentation takes me to. So one of the first benefits you'll see here in a OneNote page is it's a limitless canvas. I don't have size restrictions. This page can be as large as I want it to be. And you'll also see here that I have different sorts of content. I have captured content from images, I have inking, and I have text all on the same page. I don't carry a mouse with me when I travel. I tend to use the trackpad and the keyboard, but most times if I'm thinking about something, I'll go keyboard behind my device or off, and I'll go to the pen and start thinking and annotating and using that as my mouse, and my pen as my mouse instead of my finger. And in fact, the leverage the pen gives me is actually much faster than even touch. When I type on a keyboard, the only part of my brain that's active is the audio part. But when I draw, the whole brain's active. Everyone's a visual learner. Even people that can't see are visual learners.
Really?
It's the visual part of the brain that is involved in learning. So I'm going to use search as an example of this. So global search in OneNote. On the right-hand side here, I have a search box. I'm going to just search for the word anything inside 20 years worth of notes. And you can see already there's a list of notes populating here, right? So that's pretty chaotic. I would be more specific if I really knew what I was looking for. But I just want to use this as an example to show you the power of ink in OneNote in particular. And here is a note, right? Now, the quality of my handwriting is questionable at best. Yeah. Anything is searchable. Now, did I write everything or anything there? I can't even tell. But it's found it.
This is OCR?
Yeah.
Optical character recognition.
OneNote does this anywhere, right? So even if I had an image of handwriting, so if you don't have a pen-enabled Windows device, you can get OneNote on your phones, right, and on your iPads and other things as well. The functionality is not the same on those, but it's still the same app. So, for example, I might be on a Mac, for example, and I don't have access to writing through the screen, but I could capture handwritten information from my paper-based diary into a OneNote page, and that would become searchable.
So what do? Take a picture with your phone?
Take a picture with your phone, straight into OneNote. In fact, OneNote on your phone will have a camera built into it, so you can photograph it straight into OneNote.
And then it inserts that, let's say...
It'll be an image. I'll give you an example of that right here now, right? So here's another one. Before I do, I just want to show you that under the Draw tab, I actually can convert that. Windows learns your handwriting style. It's learnt mine. Right, I write in a lot of different applications to text on occasion, depending on the circumstance.
Okay.
So it learns from you every time you use it. Okay. So that ability to take notes and convert them without reworking them. One of the things I find that really helpful for actually is if I was I had a thought or a group of thoughts in my head and I wanted to organize them, I would always write or draw the scenario out rather than type it. And what I find that helps me to do is it helps me to really process the thinking at a very deep level. It forces me to work. It feels hard because it is. You're actually asking the brain to work hard.
Yeah.
But once I've written that out, it's normally pretty good content. And so I want to curate that content. I would convert a copy of it. I would keep a copy of my handwritten notes and I would put them up side by side.
Interesting.
And then I would look at my handwritten notes versus the conversion and I would then curate and edit in typed text, of course.
Can you also just draw directly in this note on your surface?
Yeah. So we can draw, right, or write. If I was going to write, I would always go on the table and go back into a writing posture and keep annotating and drawing. We do have some pretty cool things from a drawing perspective here, right? So the ability to, quickly draw shapes and get them to come up in straight lines. If you were, a lot of flowcharter type person, we want to do this sort of thing and get ideas linked together. Building a very informal mind map, you can do that here as well as just a general ink and drawing.
Oh, so shapes and lines, it recognizes what you're trying to do and it turns it into a neater version.
If you want that to be turned on, you can.
Interesting.
In fact, the way to do that is just to hold your pen at the end of the shape and it will formalize it for you.
I see. You've basically just folded the keyboard under the tablet and are now just writing on it. Is this your default, like you're at a lecture or a class and you're taking notes?
Absolutely. In fact, we have a rule internally and in the organizations I visit that if I'm in a meeting with another person, screen's down. No screen between me and you. We've all been in a meeting room where there's 15 people typing on keyboards, clattering away, and yet, are they...
It's awful.
It's terrible. Whereas here, we actually have transparency and trust in the conversation now, right? We've done some work recently with some social workers, government agency workers who deal with social work, and the ability for them to take notes in front of, for example, if I was just even to take the keyboard off, but, I'm meeting you, you're in need of help, and that's a pretty horrible situation for everyone to be in. But from a person-to-person experience, here I am asking you questions and I'm taking notes, right, while I'm looking at you and engaged. Like, this is a very huge human experience. This is not. Think about this in a meeting room, and people report to us all the time, wow, look at the change in the demeanor of our meetings. Even the posture. If I was sitting at a table, I'd be leaning over the top of this, leaning forward. On a keyboard, I'm rocked back. That human connection, we have the ability to affect that too with tools like this. Less than 20% of the workforce, in my experience, can actually type faster than they can handwrite.
Really?
Yeah. So there's a good few people that have learnt to touch type and can do it really fast and quickly. But even those people, if they're thinking about what they're typing, the natural speed of their typing will slow back to close to handwriting speed.
Interesting.
Gun touch typists, or the best touch typists, are not thinking about content. They're duplicating it.
Yeah.
You know, there's a medium we haven't spoken about here, and that's the voice medium as well. It's another human thing. And I'm going to give you an example of this. I'm going to jump back to the notes I collected before in preparation for this last night. So this is an example of the way we script out our videos. So this is the topic of this video here. And what Brett actually did in creating this script was, this is a topic that he knew really well. And he used in OneNote the dictate function. He just dictated it straight into the page. And we actually recorded that as well. So why he wanted to record it was, not only are we dictating content to be read through a script, we want to give this script to another person to read to camera. So how can they hear the intent and the tone behind this script?
Interesting.
So they can listen to the audio recording as they read the script themselves, right? And that helps them to get the full meaning of what they wanted to do. That voice to text capability saves duplication of effort. This script goes through a review process, and there's several people here. And what you can actually see, if I zoom in here, you can see that Brett Gilbertson, BG, put the content in here. But if I go over to the side here and zoom around a bit, I will find someone else has made contributions to this. Yeah, so if we go down here, and it says Alex Davies initial. So Alex has made, and this is about tracking authors. You can see we've got some screenshots in here. Plus we've now got ink, right? And highlights all on the same page as we've built and reviewed this script as a group of people. And then we have the ability to link this to other things as well. So
that's what I was going to ask you. How do links work? So you have, different sections and pages and notebooks. What if you see two ideas that you want to kind of create that link between them?
So the simple way is to create a hyperlink between, I can create a hyperlink to a notebook, to a section, to a page, or even to a paragraph in the page or a point in the page. So I'll give you an example of that, right? Let's just use this handwriting as an example. So I'm just going to select this word, right? Running recurring meetings. I'm going to right click on it and bring up the context menu. And one of the options here will be copy link to paragraph. I could go anywhere else, including an email or a Word document, right? And paste that link. I'm just going to paste it into a brand new OneNote page here. There's the hyperlink.
So every single element on every note has its own link.
Can have it. If you create the link, you're creating the link by doing this. But when I click this link, you can see it took me straight back to that page.
That's quite a more precise linking than just here's a note, because a note could have many thousands of words.
So I can, and we often do, if I wanted to create an index, for example, copy link to pages. And in fact, if I go back to the research I did before, the things I thought about before we came in today, these are just copied links to pages. So I thought, hey, I can quickly navigate through my 20 or 30 notebooks by just going here.
Did you have to create that little kind of table of contents manually, or will it do that for you?
So I just was thinking last night and hopped on a Teams call with my brother back in Australia and said, what are the key, if there was key examples we wanted to show, where would they be, and what examples do we have already? And I just put those into the page while I was talking to him. So it's as simple as right-clicking on the page, going copy link to page and pasting it to wherever I want it to go. Now, if I want to edit that link, I can hit here and edit link, right click, edit link, and I can give the link a descriptive name, but the address is located here as well.
It's like your little personal internet.
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe an intranet, right?
Intranet.
It's internal for my thinking, but I could link external documents to these pages. So a Word document or a PDF or a PowerPoint, I could put the hyperlink straight to this page.
What is the difference there between like attaching something or adding it versus linking to it?
So when I insert content into OneNote, I do get the option to print things to OneNote. OneNote's, in fact, if you've used Microsoft Windows, oftentimes when you go to print, you'll see print to OneNote or send to OneNote as a printer option.
Oh, right.
So by default, you can print anything into OneNote you want.
And what does that mean to print to OneNote?
I'll give you an example of it here. So here's a Word document. It's a quote for a customer. And I'm going to print this document, file, and print. And one of the options here is print to PDF, but I'm going to go print to OneNote. I'm going to hit print. I could change what pages are going to print to that document, etc. OneNote should now come up with a dialog box, and here it is. And what this is saying to me is, Matt, you've decided to print this document to OneNote, but I need to know where. Where do you want this to go? And one of the options at the top will be the current page. So if I was to print this on our current page and hit OK, a digital paper printout of that document appears in this. I see this most often used, for example, you've been emailed a meeting agenda. You can actually just drag it and drop it into the OneNote page, and it will give you the option to insert a printout, or to attach the document. The attached document's useless; it's static. Whereas a printout means that I can now draw all over it. It's actually now also searchable.
Oh, okay. So if it's attached, it's not searchable or annotatable. You get both of those functionalities when you is it print or another way of doing that?
So drag and drop the file into the OneNote page, or print. And if you're in Outlook, there's actually a send to OneNote button in the classic Outlook, I should say, not the modern Outlook. It's a different methodology there. But let's say I've got an email from you and I've got a section on building second brain and I want to put that email straight into that section. I just go send to OneNote and it prints that email into that OneNote section. So I will just quickly show you that these are searchable. Let's just give this a bit of a test by going to Windows. And I just search for the word Windows, and you can see the yellow highlights appearing here already. This is a photograph of a printed piece of paper that I captured in OneNote. The handwriting on the paper is now searchable in OneNote.
So cool.
Not only is it searchable, as would be the text, I can actually copy the text out of that picture. Now I could go back, we had a Word document open here before. Let's just do this. Let's go File, New Blank Document. And I am going to split screen this so you can see what I'm doing. But I'm just going to paste all of that content straight into Word.
Interesting.
Now, it's even actually had a go at the handwriting. Would need some curation.
Yeah.
But think about the effort I've saved.
So much.
So people have, I meet people that have shelves full of their old paper-based notes. And maybe by year or by diary or by topic.
Yeah.
So if I could photograph those into a medium that let me extract them as text, like what could I do with that information? Being able to embrace those multiple modes, right, and get them into, or push them forward is the way I think of it, push them forward into digital mediums. It's really powerful.
I want to ask you about kind of the cutting edge new kid on the block in the Microsoft ecosystem, which is Loop. Have you used Loop? Are you familiar with it? How does it kind of fit into things?
A lot of people compare Loop with OneNote, and just now available in OneNote is Loop components inside of OneNote. And so perhaps you have to understand what Loop components are. And so they're portable bits of content. So what I've got here is let me just pick one that's, here we go. Here's an AI marketing plan, right? I'm not sure whether I should be sharing this or not, but we'll give it a go. So this component, right, is a table of people shared with a bunch of others that is real-time collaborative. So we can all edit this at the same time. It's currently in the Loop desktop app that you're seeing, but I could make this available to you in Outlook, in an email. I could make it available, I could paste it into a OneNote page. And so this same component, which is live, is available in multiple applications at the same time.
What I hear and what you're saying is one of my favorite concepts, which is reusability. Often you have these, it's funny because there's not an agreed upon term. Artifact, module, intermediate packet is my term that I made up. But it's like often you realize, wait a minute, I'm not accessing my notes equally. There's a relatively small number that are these cornerstones that we're always going back to, the list of goals, the schedule for the year, the marketing plan. And it's almost like, if I understood correctly, tell me if I'm right, Loop is doubling down on that and saying, let's make those frequently accessed modules super shareable, not just person to person, but across different apps. Is that kind of right?
Exactly right. I am in OneNote here again, but even keyboard shortcuts, like I might be building a bullet list. Well, if I go control dot, there's a bullet list. If I was to go control slash, there's a numbered list. So at the first point, I might start this here, and then I realize, well, this is more important, and it needs to be with more people. So maybe that's when I'm going to turn it into a Loop component. Or you may have started in Loop because you want to share that across applications and across people.
Could you show us an example of that where you realize, oh, this casual note that I'm taking, I actually want to bring it into Loop?
I'm just going to copy that whole screenshot, well, that box there, and let's just copy it, and let's just go to loop, and let's go back to ideas. Let's create a page, and I paste it here.
What it looks like to bring that into Outlook or Teams or somewhere else.
Let's go to Teams. Yeah, so here is our Teams chat and on Microsoft Copilot program. And you can see that I've got that same table I showed you in Loop right here inside the conversation. Editable, the same as it was in the application.
And everyone who's on this team can go in and edit that.
Yeah.
There's something too almost psychological. Notes are so private. I wonder if you ever feel, even though okay, I'm only sharing this one notebook, they don't have access to my other notebooks, there's something almost a little scary about sharing your personal notes in a forum like this. So this kind of makes it like it separates. Maybe you could have more official documents or more public documents in Loop and more private ones in OneNote. Is that one possibility?
And this probably comes back to the topic of collaboration that we started off with, right? So what is a shared note and what is actually collaboration? I hear people all the time going, well, we need more collaboration, or we need better collaboration. Well, I always like to ask, well, what do you mean by that? Because
what do they say?
Well, I go, well, simple. They don't know, actually. I don't think is this simple. No one's actually asked the question, or they haven't really thought about it. What they know is that the transfer of information is not working. That's what they know. That they're struggling with the weight of inbound communication and curating that. They're struggling to find time to think in the course of their work because they are just constantly bombarded with inbound communication that forces them to task switch. So I think it's good to ask the question, what does it actually mean? What I think it actually means, what people are actually asking for, is for a better exchange of ideas, not documents. And it sort of reminds me of some research that we have on file by Professor Gordon Sanson. So he's retired, but he was a biologist, but he's pretty much the author of cognitive load theory. He worked out that when he shared documents with colleagues, all he got back was format, grammar, and spelling. No one engaged with the idea.
Yes, I've noticed this too.
Yeah. Whereas if he shared with them a free-form idea, no one cared about spelling and grammar, and they engaged with the idea and the concept. So he came up with this theory where he talked about version 1 and version 2 thinking. And I think from our research and conversations that this is essential to human creativity. And well, people say they're not creative. Well, I challenge that. Everyone's creative. If you can ask a question, you're a creative person. So the stages of answering, or human creativity, answering questions, solving things, is version 1, low formality thinking, followed by version 2, right, which is the format and the grammar and the spelling and the structure around it.
I love this. This is putting terms to things that I've noticed for so long.
Yeah, and that was an eye-opener for me too. So when I sort of instinctively built my workflow coming from building into this tech space around this methodology. And then I was introduced to a lecture by Travis Smith, who works for Microsoft in Australia, who was a former school principal. And he talked about this research, and he put all this research on the board in this conversation with us. And it was like just the most mind-blowing experience, because everything I'd felt now had the backstory and the reasons behind it, right? I knew I needed to solve things by visual processing, and then I could document them. I didn't understand why until this went through. And this is where I think the shared power of less formal notes becomes really important, because if I can see your ideas, I get the chance to learn from them and, importantly, to influence them. But if I only ever interact with your 40-page Word document, all I'm going to care about is spelling and grammar and format, and that picture's better than this one.
It's too far along. It's too developed, too perfect in a way.
So in education sense, chalk and talk, right? The importance of free-form thinking, the importance of shared visualization. That's where the magic lives.
It's something I noticed too in the whole online, second brain content space. Most systems that I see, almost all the systems I see, demonstrations, my initial reaction is this is too formal. It's too structured. It's too polished. It looks nice. To me, notes shouldn't look too nice.
I can't make my notes look nice, but yeah, I agree with you. I absolutely agree. And I have people talking to me about mind mapping, for example, right? They're passionate about mind mapping, and they go, "I want a better mind mapping app." Well, as soon as you say the word app and mind mapping, I think you've progressed too far. Just get a scrap of paper out and draw on it, or get a whiteboard and draw on it, or if you've got a tool like OneNote, just get it out and draw. Oh, but my drawing's not good and my writing's messy. So what? People aren't going to care. They're going to engage with your ideas. And when we share collaboration in the workspace, I think we need more time to just ideate together. Right? And we don't take enough of it. We're too busy to do it. And the tools that we are given by default force us into a formal approach.
Yes.
Left hand justified line by line. That's not the way the brain works. I don't think anyway.
It's such a powerful point. So in a way, Microsoft and OneNote is saying, okay, well, we need to use technology for our work, but let's, instead of fighting the free form, informal, really kind of nature of note-taking, it's always been that way. It's always been improvisational, spontaneous in the moment. It's always been physical. It's always been tangible, visual, all these things. It's just saying, let's adapt to that reality and just make it easy, as you demonstrated half a dozen different ways, to just get that content right as it is into digital form.
And we haven't talked about web capture. We haven't talked about a range of other things, but you've just perfectly spoken what Chris Prattley and Steve Sinofsky did when they created OneNote. So they're the OneNote fathers, if you like.
Okay.
And Chris Prattley, his car has the number plate OneNote on it. So I saw that recently when I was in Redmond. But they, Chris Prattley went to Steve Sinofsky and said, I need a solution for things that aren't yet documents. I have all these things that are ideas or bits of paper or sticky notes, and I need somewhere digital for them, or to place them before they become more formal. And that's where OneNote came from. So I see it as a stepping stone tool. It gets my ideas into a digital format in whatever mode I have available to me, hopefully a human-centric one like voice or ink, and then I can progress them without, reusability is what you said, right? I can reuse them, help them grow, reiterate them without the rework.
That was a mic drop moment. I think we should end right there. Thank you, Mathew, for being here. This was eye-opening. I honestly didn't expect to be so impressed and kind of awed by what the Microsoft ecosystem is capable of. I'm kind of thinking maybe we should explore this for our team. We could use some of these, collaboration and sharing features. So
happy to help you.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much for having me here. This is an incredible experience to meet you in person and to talk about something that's been passionate for me for more than 15 years, and to see what you're doing with it is just phenomenal. Thank you.
Absolutely. And where can people follow you if they want to hear more from you?
Yeah, so we do have a YouTube channel, which is OZ Tablet PC or Oz Tablet PC. Follow me on Twitter or on our YouTube channel. We work with people directly as well to help in this. So happy to answer questions. It's what we're here to. It's just to help people create ideas.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.